So then we are back with modern understanding from the time of the second tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation is from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. We find then a layer of understanding of the spring feast, autumn feast, and the returning of the cities of the Messiah laid waste for many centuries. Namely then the cities of the Messiah returning and back on duty, and then the first holy city of our time of restoration period is precisely on the land of Cush, northern Sudan. So then, understandably, when the holy instructions were then translated, the translators for some reason decided to give then chapters and numbers of verses where it does not make any sense. So then, we understand chapter 1:8 is directly related with the 61st chapter. Those are the same layers, and then those should be layered up. Then, as we understand, then the Hebrews must then measure the land. This is what the statement of measuring stick is coming from. They have to measure the land, then secure the perimeter, and then around the perimeter must have the holy stones. Person might say, nothing mystical, they are simply stones with the sandals carved on them, delineating the perimeter of the holy tabernacling. So then we understand precisely the way it's going to be, and then the tabernacling of the desert must be implemented on the land of Cush. That's the first holy city of the time of the restoration period, and then we are already 40 years behind schedule. After 09, the holy city should be ready for duty. So the city is not ready yet, and 2010 is gone, 11 is gone, 12 is gone, this year is gone, and then we are shortly a few months away from the 5th year behind schedule. So then, understandably, at some point, his people must return and then do what the Messiah told them to do and observe. Because the Messiah in turn did and observed what his father mentioned him to do and observe, namely found in the instructions given by Moshe. As we understand also, we are only prepared for the autumn feast. The autumn feast starts with the sounding of the shofars. So then we understand the seals of Revelation, those are already opened. And those were opened on Mount Gerizim, or Mount of Favor, when the Messiah himself came out of Jerusalem, then indicating for the rest of the world tabernacling has gone out of Israel. The Messiah said, go therefore around the world and establish holy tabernaclings. Because the Messiah was then given the authority in heaven and the earth, and the mobile tabernacling came out of Jerusalem and went on Mount of the Favor. So then when you read the holy instructions, Devrayim, and other sections, you understand then the mountain of favor. The Messiah was the favored. He went up on a mountain, and there he transfigured himself. Then showed up to him Moshe and Eliyahu. Then, obviously, he got the okay from both of them. Then from there, he then opened the seals. Then he came down from there. During this time, he spent a couple of Yom Creation days with them, thus indicating then 2,000 years. So then, what's coming in the future is the autumn feast, only the sounding of the shofars. So when you read Revelation, for instance, you begin to read related only with the sounding of the shofars. That's where then Yom Teruah. Then you find the holy feast of Yom Teruah, vengeance. So then, obviously when you read a Revelation and when you read also the spring feast, you are reading some of those areas related, directly related. Autumn feast is only the sounding of the shofars, and obviously along with it, because the shofars and also the cups are directly related. Autumn feast starts then with the sounding of the shofar. Whatsoever is not related with the shofars and the cups, they do not belong in the autumn feast. You have then areas of the spring feast, for instance, related with the earthquake of Revelation, is the same earthquake when the Messiah died. It's the same earthquake. The translators did not understand the times and the seasons, and they ignorantly had removed the sections of the spring feast and they placed at the end where makes no sense. It is the same earthquake. So then when the Messiah died on a pole, then the rocks split and had the earthquake at the same time. So when you read, for instance, the completion of the spring feast, you have 4 versions of the spring feast. Couple of them from Hebrews, couple of them from Gentiles. There is no mysticism in any of them. You have 4 viewpoints of the same topic. Some of them more complete, some of them with more details, some of them with not so many details. So then when you then read the understanding of the Messiah and the rocks split, then the Ark of the Covenant was under the site where the Messiah died, because his holy dam came down from the top and then had sprinkled the holy ark. Thus then Daniel the 9th chapter was completed. Then the Holy of Holies was then anointed. Then during this time there was the earthquake. So the earthquake during the time of the Messiah is the same earthquake in Galah. It was the revelation of the sins pardon. They were revealed. So when you read the revelation regarding then with the earthquake, does not belong there. Belongs with the spring feast. What belongs with the autumn feast is only the sounding of the shofars, and then directly related with the cups. That's it. After these, then this age must end. Maximum time of this age, 2032. It can't go any longer. The calculation of the Messiah was already done a long time ago. He was born in 4999 if you count the starting of this age as 1,000. If you start with 0, then it's 3999. But the problem is at the end, then we are no longer than 7th times 1,000, but then 6 times and 1,000 plus 10 plus 3. So then the best is counting the age with already 1,000 as per the Hebrew culture. We are 7013. The Messiah was born 4999. He was placed on a pole 5032. Spent couple Yom creation days with the Samaritans, indicating Gentiles. Then you have 2000 plus 5032, 7032. We are in 7013. Gives us roughly 20 years, the very maximum. Then the prophecy expires. So if you don't understand, or if you are a mocker, that's okay. The Messiah already said in Luke, for instance, even a Gentile not from the lineage of the Hebrews, himself was explaining what the Messiah had said. At the end of times, because these people are not knowledgeable of the instructions, they're going to laugh, they're going to mock, they do what they always do, is mocking and being evil. And then as the Messiah made the distinction and the similitude with Noah and then Lot. They were giving in relationships and having a family and this, that, the other, and buying a house and doing the main thing, the cares of the world. And then the end would come and would get them then caught without their understanding. Thus then the Messiah said at the end, would end with a shout of sulfur as it was during the time of Lot. And the Messiah said only a few would find the understanding. What he was saying was this: it's not a path. The Messiah is not talking about a path per se. He was explaining only a few would understand every layer given in the instructions. It does not mean a path. It has to do with the layerings of it. If you have the layerings properly layered, then you are on a path spoken by the Messiah. But it's not a path as if you gather on your own and you figure on your own while walking a certain path made in your own mind. No, it's understanding every layer. When we study the layers of understanding of the holy instructions, then the path is developed. And only a few would find perfectly layered understanding of the instructions. So then, as the Messiah said those words, then we find ourselves in understanding, for instance, what's the objective of our country. We were granted a couple hundred years roughly of the 1,000 granted for the time of deceit. We are no longer during the time of deceit, so our country, for instance, no longer belongs to the leadership of the world. Thus then coming the retrieving and rebuilding. Thus then what Gerald Nye from North Dakota said was very important. So then China can do his work, and then the Soviet Union can do his work, and then Africa can do his work, and the rest of us retrieve and rebuild. So then the country can become a worthy partner of the future. That's the objective. It's very simple. So then, since we understand the freighters are doing a great job thus far, sometimes thinking of the events of the holy instructions is nearly unfair. For instance, since the freighters are doing such a great job, then they receive the entire leadership of this country as if it would come down from heaven on their laps. Now, it's not kind of along with those words, but that's precisely what the freighters of this earth must receive, the leadership of this country. So then the freighters of this country must lead, because the Messiah already said in the future, and the freighters of the earth indicating authority. The Messiah did not say, in this country is very strong, so therefore then the freighter of this country, because this government is very strong, then the freighters went out and did their work. No, he was speaking directly of the freighters as authority. When the Messiah speaks from tabernacling, he speaks of authority. You know what he saw? He saw the stick of authority of the Ishmaelites. The Messiah spoke from a time in the future where then the Ishmaelites, because they hold the most crude oil, fuel for freighters, he saw then from a point in time of the future these stick of authority of Ezekiel 37 then restored at the very utmost peak of the time. So then, since we are smart and we are very focused in what the Messiah has said, then from these apex, then we simply retrieve ourselves from the future and we come to our time. Then we do the proper actions so then can line up to make it easier for us when this time of the future comes. This means wisdom. Properly layering then the instructions of the holy prophets with the future spoken by the prophet. This means this country is given to the hands of the freighters. They have to deal with the problems of this country, and the only way of doing it is by combining the tracking of those freighters with taxation. Because the monetary system, as we know of, must become decentralized. The dragon must have the total control of the finances of this planet. And it's done via decentralization. So if you are familiar with Bitcoin, you understand a bit. You can buy a unit of virtual money, and then you can store it on the computer, and there is no link with the central bank. Then you are welcome to the system of China of directed trade, meaning the dragon's trade. For some people, when they hear this, they think, oh, it's crazy. No, it's not crazy. Crazy is where they came from. They came from a crazy time. They were born during the time of deceit. We are during the time of the dragon, and those instructions are more than 2,500 years ago. So if we say the instructions are crazy, then what is of us? We don't even belong on a planet. So the instructions are as fresh as if they were given yesterday. So when a person says, oh, it's crazy, it's because they were born during the time of crazy. Deceit is crazy. Being crazy is deceit. Time of deceit, time of crazy. So then we are back on the schedule as per the instructions, and it is the time of the dragon. The dragon must have exclusivity. There is no central bank. The central of the entire financial system is with the dragon. To directly trade with the dragon. And there is no escape. Every computer in the future, every site, every website, every transaction, every freighter, every label printed must have a link directly with the dragon. Thus we are experiencing then the first transition. Where then the world is rid of itself from deceit. Then they understand the holy instructions for what they are. From then on, then there is a second transaction, or I should say, in the language of holy tabernacling, transition. In the language of trade would be transaction. The first, and then there is the second. In tabernacling language would be the first transition and the second transition. Where then the Ishmaelites, they get a hold of the entire system via crude. China yet leads with the trade and the market, understandably, but the Ishmaelites, they give the fuel. No fuel, no transportation, no trade. Then we understand later in the future, the Ishmaelites, they hold then the stick of authority of the trade. And when they do, and then when the cities are around, and the numbers where then Ruach HaKodesh thinks would be enough from heaven, then comes a time of the refurbishment of Jerusalem. Then the Ishmaelites only will let whatsoever was taught in the desert. There is no temple. Temple does not exist. What they saw, the holy building or the new capital in Ezekiel, is related with the post-autumn feast. It's the capital of the new Jerusalem. The Messiah said, not a stone is going to be left upon another. The temple is destroyed. The wish of the Hebrews of having a temple, they are crazy. They don't understand the holy instructions. As Yohanan said very precisely in Hebrews, they must have a teacher to teach them the basic principles of the instructions. Because they believed a fable of their own. So then we very wisely we remove then the takanot, maasim, the crazy junks of the Hebrews, and we filter it, clean it, make sure then they are nice and clean, so then we have an understanding and a reference. And then studying very wisely and then being preparing ourselves for the future. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.